Hello, welcome back to Hazel Jane Tarot, and today I have an unboxing and first impressions video of this deck, the Pierpoint Morgan Visconti Sforza Tarocchi deck published by US Games. So this is another kind of lockdown retail therapy purchase. I had, as I mentioned before, intended to do a depth year this year. I wasn't going to buy any new decks at all, but I find myself thinking I would quite like to have this particular deck. Now, the Visconti Sforza is not, I don't think it's like the original tarot deck or anything, but it's a tarot deck, like a Tarocchi deck for playing games, I understand, rather than a deck that was intended for divination, but that was that predates the Rider-Waite-Smith, which is the deck that I primarily work with. So I just found I was interested to own a copy and to see it. I decided to buy this particular version, having watched a comparison and flip through on the Hermit's Cave channel. Basically Simon showed this alongside the Golden Tarot version and the Ilmangallo version of this deck. So I'll maybe try to link that in the description box below. I didn't watch the whole flip through because once I'd seen a few cards, I realized very quickly that this particular one was a reproduction of the art of the Visconti Sforza as it exists, and the Golden Tarot was a repainting of those images, and they didn't have that sort of same feel to them, so I decided I would go for this. The Ilmangallo version was much more expensive. This US Games version was about £30. So it comes in this hard box, which is an unusual design in that it is sort of a big flip-up style box, and it is the full size of the cards. Wow, they are big. They're big. Look, that's my whole hand in the box. So it has a little booklet, which I'll have a look at in a minute, and the cards themselves are huge. Oh, this is exciting. Oh, this is always the bit people struggle with in unboxing videos, and I didn't think, I don't want to damage a card by digging in with my nail. Right, hold on. Now I know why everybody gets prepared and has a knife or a pair of scissors or something to hand. Okay, here we go. Plastic off. Now, let's see. So the Pierpoint Morgan Visconti Sforza Tarocchi edition. So Stuart R. Kaplan is listed as the author or the creator of this version of the deck. So I'm curious to see what what the relevance of Pierpoint Morgan is, if Stuart R. Kaplan is the creator. But maybe find that out when I have a look at the deck booklet. Okay, so these are the backs. So kind of reproduction, pretend worn backs. It's almost like they have a little hole from maybe being, you know, fixed to a surface or something, faked on the back there too. Okay, so here we have pictures of Francesco Sforza and Bianca Maria Visconti. So they were a married couple then, and this was in the 1400s. So Francesco Sforza married Bianca Maria Visconti in 1441, and these paintings are attributed in around 1460. So that's interesting. So presumably they're not part of the deck, they're more for information. Okay, so these are not numbered or named in any way, so hopefully I will be able to make sense of this. So this is the full. I quite like the the way they seem to be just a kind of a reproduction of these cards as they exist. Like they have all the worn parts of the gilding, and the kind of faded colours, or places where maybe they've been, I don't know, over the years touched up or damaged, are preserved rather than tidied up or nice and made nicer. On the camera, it actually, they seem to have a wee bit more depth than they do looking at them with the eye. The background, you know, I'm assuming in the real actual card is a textured gilded background. And that looks to have quite a bit of depth there as you look at it on the camera. But they do look pretty nice. So here we have the Magician. And the colours are very, you know, reminiscent of the Rider-Waite-Smith colours, the red and white, although here we have green as well. And the objects on the table, we have a cup, we have a knife, we have, well, it looks more like a quill, but it could be like a wand, and coins on the table. I wonder what this is. And it's quite intriguing. So there's your High Priestess, or the Papess. I'm looking forward to reading a bit more about this deck, because I don't really know that much about the history of the evolution of the images of the tarot, because I mostly have focused on reading up and studying the Rider-Waite-Smith symbology and decks deriving from that, rather than going back to what came before. So there's the Empress. Some very familiar imagery. Again, the shield is familiar from the Rider-Waite-Smith. So much gold, very rich looking. I can imagine the actual card would be amazing to see. And the Emperor. And then we have the Hierophant, or the Pope. So he's got that three-tiered crown on. He's got a staff in his hand, although it's almost merged in with a cross on the top. It's almost merged in with the background there. Oh, this really does just make me want to find the actual cards and have a look at them, because it looks like with the gilding and the etching on them must be so rich. So this is the Lovers. And this little boy character does have wings there, just visible. So that's the angel. But I'm intrigued by the blindfold. And he's sort of on a pedestal, almost like a statue as well. So that's really interesting. The Chariot. Very like the Empress. Very like the Empress character sitting on the chariot there, which is interesting. And we don't have the duality of the black and the white, but these winged horses give that real sense of forward momentum, which is really interesting. Justice. So they're not numbered, so there's no particular reason why you would, you know, if you prefer Justice to be 11 in your head, then there's no particular reason why that can't be. But here it's sitting, it's ordered as the 8. That'd be the Hermit. He's got an hourglass rather than a lantern. Well, that's interesting. So this is the Wheel of Fortune. This character carrying the wheel on his back. That's interesting, and makes me want to look into that and see what story or myth or archetype has been drawn in there. Strength, number 11. So this this poor lion's going to get beat. So it doesn't have any of the gentleness that we're familiar with in some of the Rider-Waite-Smith derived images. The Hanged Man, or the Hanged One. That's very much like a door, isn't it? With the arch created by that frame. but the leg positions and the everything is very similar to the Rider-Waite-Smith. And then, oh, death. It's like a bow, or is it a bow? Yeah, there's a vertical there. Looks like a snake as well. A bow and maybe an arrow here in the hand. Ooh, that's quite a frightening depiction of death. And making me think about, you know, the causes of death back in the 1400s, you know, dying of the possibility that a person could, you know, die of starvation, die of plague. I mean, of course people can die of starvation today. I mean, I don't mean to be. I'm just thinking of the Italian context that this deck was created in. It's just interesting. So here we have Temperance, which is nice. Seems like quite a, rather than an angelic figure, seems like more of a kind of ordinary woman, a working woman. Maybe, you know, the way that the dress is hitched up a little bit, the socks are falling down, and very grounded, you know, not standing with one foot in the water like we would see in the RWS versions. I like that. Temperance is one of my favorite cards in the Major Arcana, and yeah, there's something quite nice and grounded about that version. The Devil, ooh, oh, I don't like that. I mean, I don't dislike it as a depiction, but it's not a pleasant image to look at, which is probably right for the Devil. See, the second hand is on a, this hand is on the arm, but this hand is actually on a stick. It's almost like a, you know, recreating, making the hands look like they're up in the same way, but they're not, you know, the deceptiveness of it. And this kind of, the torso turned into a weird kind of six-pack bunch of grapes thing. Ooh. But lots of things you could read into the imagery here. And then you have the male and the female characters chained up with the horns, very familiar looking imagery there. Interesting. The Tower. Wow. The figures falling down. It's almost like this storm. The sun and the clouds and the star are nearly coming out of the tower, causing the top to fall off. Rather a phallic image, really. But interesting. The star. Oh, this is the same figure from the Temperance image, the same dress, but now it's more modest length. And we have kind of little gold shoes on, and it's almost a suggestion of pregnancy with the way the hand is sitting on the upper belly there. But looking up at the star, that's really interesting. And then we have the moon. Very similar figure. The hair, must be the fashion of the day, maybe the way the hair is depicted. The moon, and then this rope, maybe tied to the waist in some way, and very gilded backgrounds again. The sun. There we have the naked baby, or it looks nearly like the musculature of the torso and the legs and everything. It looks like a more grown-up person, with holding the sun. Interesting, little wings, so that's like a little angel or Cupid. I'm definitely going to enjoy reading up on this deck. Now we have Judgment, again very familiar. It's like the Hierophant or the Emperor character again here. So is this maybe supposed to be the Christian image of God the Father? And then the angels blowing their trumpets. You can see here some of the rest of that trumpet's been rubbed off or gilded over, and it's almost like a family maybe, or like there's male and female, and this could be a child or maybe another female, I'm not sure. Interesting. And then the world. Okay. And this is our same little strange adult baby angel cupids holding up the world. Right. And now what have we got? So this looks like the suit of swords then. Okay. So in order they were presented like this. So we would have, looks like a kind of, that looks like a knight, but that also looks like a knight. So maybe this is the page and this is the knight. And then the queen and the king. And, oh yes, we're going backwards then. So we've got 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. I wonder what that says. 4, 3, 2, and the ace of swords. Okay, so I am not somebody who is familiar with Marseille or other kind of pip systems. I don't really, and haven't really used pip decks very much. So if I'm going to read with this deck, I either have a little bit of study to do in terms of pip decks, or I would just be using my memory of what the 5 of swords or the 3 of swords represents in my prior knowledge of tarot to read that. So I think that's that could be quite interesting to work with. And then here it looks like we have the wands. So, oh, maybe going backwards. Yes, this could be the king and queen. Ah, maybe I've got that wrong before. That's the page. That's the knight. That's the queen. And that's the king. Ah, okay. Because they're in reverse order. So that's the king and queen of wands. Queen of wands is usually one of my favourite cards in the deck. So it's just interesting to have a wee look at her. Yeah, she's still got, you know, the wide-legged stance. Which we're familiar with seeing for the Queen of Wands. The green and the red is interesting, and then she's got this very dark coloured dress. But of course the colours might not be true reflections of what was originally painted, you know, with aging of the art over the centuries. Interesting. And then we've got the knight. Oh, he's very young looking. And the page. Okay, the page of wands then. And these wands seem to have like there's a little decorative element on the top and bottom, but it's sort of faded into the background with all that gilding and etching, but interesting. And then we have our wands. So 10, 9. I'm starting to see the pattern to the way the geometric shapes are set out. And then we can compare as well. The wands and the swords look different. So the double end on the wands helps me to see the difference between the wands and the swords. The border is lighter on the minor arcana as well, and then the actual sort of more figurative ones of the courts and the majors are darker borders. I've watched various flip throughs of more pip decks, and I know, you know, the people who appreciate that type of deck would have particular thoughts and preferences about the way they're painted and designed, but it's not an area of tarot that I have any knowledge of at the minute. But to my eye, they're quite pretty, the designs. So the wands have a lot of flowers around them, whereas the swords, yeah, no, they're very similar actually. I suppose it's just how the clarity of how the art has been preserved over the years, but the flowers and the swirls and the greenery around the wands and the swords don't look all that different from each other to me. So here we have the King of Cups, it looks like, because he's holding a big chalice, and the Queen of Cups. The directionality of that is interesting, that, you know, she's face on but he's looking away. the Knight of Cups. Certainly more sedate posture for the horse than in the other knights I've looked at so far. And then the Page of Cups. Very similar faces. I wonder if there was a particular family member that was being drawn, younger family members, as the pages. So now we have the 10 of Cups, the 9, the 8, the 7, the 6, the 5, the 4, the 3. Oh, I kind of like that design. The 2 and the Ace. That's quite interesting. There's like this sort of scepter. It's almost like a fountain. This in the middle, and it has this sort of bird imagery on the top. And now we're into the Pentacles. So there's the King and the Queen of Pentacles. That's nice. That's one of the most clear in terms of the lines and the edges of the figure. That's maybe the way that the dress is designed. It's really clear. I really like that one. Queen of Pentacles, and then our Knight of Pentacles, again quite sedate, and the Page of Pentacles. And then we have our numbered cards, so the 10, the 9, the 8, the 7, the 6. The patterning of them does make it fairly obvious quickly. You know, you don't have to count them. You can sort of see from the way it's laid out, because they're all laid out in the same way, which number you're looking at. You know, 3, 2, and the Ace of Pentacles. Wow, that is really interesting. They're huge. I have no idea how you would even begin to shuffle this deck if you're going to use it as a reading deck. Like, maybe, oh, some of them are turned over. Take that out. You have to maybe shuffle them like that overhand. They are quite a thin cardstock. But you know, they don't feel bendy, or they're not shiny. So, and they slip over each other quite nicely. So you could certainly ruffle the corners and then shuffle them together, or shuffle them overhand like that if you wanted to use it as a reading deck. So let's just have a quick peek at the book here to see what information is in here. I'm certainly not going to read you the whole book, and I literally have not opened this yet, obviously, as you know, because you saw me take the plastic off. So so there's an introduction to the major arcana. Gives you the French and Italian namings of the suits and what they correspond with in the playing card system. So there's Visconti and Sforza families' heraldic devices. So these are used in the illustration. So that's interesting. That rather than the imagery having a kind of esoteric or religious background, that it's coming from the actual heraldry of the family. So that'll be interesting to read up on. And so different versions of tarot decks and where they are, the old tarot decks. The Visconti and Visconti Sforza decks and where they're kept. That's really interesting. The Pierpoint Morgan Visconti Sforza pack is the most nearly complete of all the 15th century decks that have survived. Okay, so they're in different places. There are 74 extant cards and 4 cards are lost. These 4 cards have been professionally recreated to most closely resemble what might have been the design of the original cards. Thus, the pack accompanying this booklet is a complete 78 card deck. Okay, that's really interesting. So the Devil, the Tower, the 3 of Swords and the Knight of Coins are modern recreations based on imagination and I guess research as to what it would have been. Okay, so the artists, the dating. Oh, that's really interesting. There's lots of historical stuff there to get into. And then we have a write-up on the cards, each of the majors. There's a little colour picture. And then the minors, there's a description of the cards, and then it goes into the quite a short description, as you can see, of the pip cards, and then again a bit of a longer write-up on each of the courts, and then short write-up on the pips. And then at the back we have, oh, your classic Celtic cross. How big is a Celtic cross going to be? Using this deck, wow, they are huge. It would be a really big Celtic cross. So this has been produced by US Games with an intention to be used as a divinatory deck, because the divinatory meanings are included by Stuart R. Kaplan there in the book. So wow, so this is really interesting. I think I'm really glad I got this. I think reading up on the history of this deck will really help me to get a bit more of an understanding of tarot and its history. You know, I think it's quite refreshing in a way when a lot of the stuff I would read is very focused on the esoteric symbolism and the Rider-Waite and different meanings of the cards. To go back to it, the idea of the cards being created for a game and created for a particular family, rather than having an especially mystical origin or intent, I think is kind of interesting. The idea of playing with your cards, you know. And I think reading up on some of that history, so that's one of the ones that it said was a modern creation. But reading up on the history and maybe having a go at reading with this deck, I think will be quite nice. I really like these, the Star and the Temperance depictions. Okay, so that is the Pierpoint Morgan Visconti Sforza Tarocchi deck by US Games. So that's available mass market. But if you are interested in picking up a version of the Visconti Sforza, I would recommend checking out Simon at the Hermit's Cave comparison of this one with the Il Mangello and the Golden Tarot, which is a bit of a cheaper version, if you're interested, so you can make up your mind as well. I'm sure there are other versions out there. Those are the only ones I am aware of though at the minute. So thanks a million for watching, and if you hit the subscribe button so you can hear and see the next videos coming out, that would be fantastic. Thank you. Bye bye.